أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين سيدنا ونبينا وشفيعنا بالقاسم محمد Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Brothers and sisters of Islam, in Quran, the holy book, the gospel, the Allah's gift to humanity and mankind, the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala very clearly states, chapter 4, ayat 1 to 7, that the women and men in His creation have equal status. وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ وَالْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ. He talks to them, both of them, in equal breath. And therefore, they respect our great Prophet, peace be upon him, Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The status he granted to the women is an example for all of us in society to understand their position. And when he mentioned Fatima, Minni, and all those about whom he mentioned Minni is from me, that doesn't mean just flesh. It is the status he is talking about. And we have just gone through the days of Muharram and Ashura, where the martyrdom of the grandson of the Prophet, Imam Hussain al-Islam, took place in the Battle of Karbala. But it is the post-Battle of Karbala which is so important for us to look at and ponder. And thereafter, the banner of Islam, the very movement and everything belonged to the granddaughter of the Prophet, Zainab Kubra Islamullah, Saniya Zahra, who took control of the situation all the way, the march which took place from Karbala to Kufa and Kufa to Sham to the Darbar, to the palace of Yazid. And we then see how important the role the women of the household of the Prophet, peace be upon them, played in that way. The status of women in Islam, unfortunately, has been usurped in many ways, power-wise, by we, the men folks. And we, in many ways, have tried, for our good and bad intentions, to reduce their legitimate rights that they should have in many ways, unfortunately. And that today reflects in our society and across the Muslim world, across all the different divides of the Islamic world. The women, the status of women remains something to be pondered upon, and they should regain what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them, for we have no right to take what He gives. To discuss the status of women, especially of the Muslim world, I have today a very important personality living in this country, coming from the Arab world, and he is heading an organization called the British Arab Federation. Our brother's name is Fadl Takruri, and he is the chairman of that organization. His work has been tireless in trying to promote the rights of the women, especially the women, Muslim women, but in a way, the women across the globe, across the world. Christian, Muslims, Hindus, they are all the children, the daughters of Adam alayhi salam. They too all have the rights. And in many ways we have seen the way they have been treated in their own lands, from the very nature of the war which took place in Afghanistan. We saw how the women were treated before them. We look in the Muslim world, the way the marriage system and others say take place is so badly abused. Even recently you must have seen that women, no matter how intelligent they are, cannot even drive a car in certain countries of the Muslim world. And worst of all, genital mutilation takes place in some, especially the North African and many other nations across the Arab world. We will try to ponder upon in as broad sense as possible, because we haven't got much time. But this organization that is there is our brother Fazl is sponsoring to America. Fazl, I know we would rather discuss the main core topic, but to introduce you to the audience, you are an Arab by birth, born
Indeed.
in Palestine.
Indeed.
And very briefly, could you tell us about your early life and how you came to make Britain your home?
I came here for education. I was born in Palestine, grew up over there, came here for education. I arrived in Manchester some 30 years ago, moved around different places in the country. Eventually, I got married and I had children, and I thought this country is a beautiful place to bring up a family. So I decided to stay, and ever since that decision, I never regret it. It's a good place to live. It's a good place to bring up children, and very much feel at home here.
MashaAllah. A lot of us, my Sameen, people watching this program, we too, a lot of us, have decided to make West our home. Making West our home does not allow us to give up certain responsibilities we shoulder for the people whom we left behind, and in our homeland, and also those who come here, Father.
Indeed.
Father, those who come here from the Indian subcontinent, India and Pakistan, or there's Bangladesh, Afghanistan. We have got a lot of people now coming in from Somalia, and before that, North Africa, what we call in our language the Maghrib. All they came, and they brought their own home culture and tradition. Were those cultures and tradition anything to do is separately to religion, or was religion part of it?
To be honest, a lot of what ethnic minorities bring to this country is beautiful and wonderful. And this country celebrates and encourages different cultures to flourish. Some habits and cultural aspects do contravene the laws of this country. And some of them, they're not acceptable in this day and age. I would not like just to focus on the negative. There are a lot of things that we could celebrate that people from the Indian subcontinent brought with, that people from North Africa brought over to this country, that people from Somalia brought over to this country, their culture, their languages, their dance, their food. This city we live in, Birmingham, is exporting a lot of the goods and culture and aspects of what we ethnic minorities have brought to this country. And this country do celebrate and encourage ethnic minorities.
But we look at the demonstrations that take place here against the Muslims and the ethnic minority, they give a very different picture.
You yourself, I myself, we have the opportunity to succeed and prosper. My children and your children can succeed and prosper. This country give us the opportunity. What we need to do is to look at all aspects of this country and evaluate properly. As well, we need to be self-critical. When we bring something which
Exactly.
is not acceptable, we have the responsibility first to confront it. The reason I am leading on this campaign is I fear that it's expanding. With the increase of the ethnic, the population that came over from North Africa and some Arab countries and from northern Iraq, this habit of female genital mutilation is on the increase. And what happened with immigrants, I know it, is they try to hook on something from back home. They want to sort of assure their commitment to their original culture. And they think that this is a way of assuring their commitment. They are mistaken. This is a crime against young girls, and people who are informed have the responsibility to confront it. It's against the law. It has a lot of negative connotations. Girls who face this crime, they live for the rest of their lives with the results. It's not something that you could easily brush aside. And it's done underground, undercover. We don't know much about the details, but some estimates say that there are hundreds of thousands of women who are living with the effects of this ugly practice, and many thousands of young girls who are threatened with it. That's why we launched this campaign, and that's why we're calling on all authorities, religious, community leaders, mosque leaders, and the police authority and the policymakers, i.e. the government, to do something about it. We, the community, need to work with the authorities, because the authorities can't do it on their own. Unless we confront it, there is nothing could be done. If we keep it hidden, many more girls will suffer. Psychologists and psychiatrists talk volumes about the impact of this ugly practice. There is no time for me to go into it. Rather, I would not like to. I would not like to go into it. But you and I know that God made us this way. God made us. If God wanted us to be different, He would got the power to make us different. Why we interfere with what God made? I don't understand it. Some people claim that it's Islamic. I actually looked into that. The history of this practice goes far, far longer than Islam. It's a few thousand years old. And it comes from the bleak idea that the woman belongs to the man. It's a partnership. As you said at the beginning of this evening, God made us equal. The Prophet, in his, peace be upon him, in all his teachings, looked to man and women as equal. It's a partnership which should be respected. This habit is a lot older than Islam, and some people, some Muslim so-called ulama, they try to reflect it as an Islamic practice. It's not. They claim that there are a couple of hadiths which indicate that it is acceptable. A friend of mine is looking into this and came to the conclusion that these hadiths are first weak. The hadith, one of them is attributed to Abu Dawood, and Abu Dawood says it is a weak hadith. And even if it is there, it could be seen as in the logic of minimizing the harm.
Okay. There are, Brother Fadl, there are a lot of practices which we know are more cultural and nothing to do with religion.
Indeed.
More backwardness rather than the forward-looking Islam which gave the status to men and women, right? More complex-wise that a man will lose control. So it's the physical and mental attitude that are wrong. If we look at this modern world today, where in the Islamic world we see the rights of the women being trampled in different quarters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us physically different, but as the Quran says, we are partners out there, and Hadith says we are like garments for each other.
Indeed.
Right? If we are a garment for each other, that means we have, like the garments we wear, it's always with us. So each of us are, as you described, partners in life, partners in our motto, our understanding of Islam, and partners in the practice of Islam.
Indeed.
If we look at the modern world in which we live, right? The modern world doesn't say wipe out Islam or wipe out the obligation. No, modern world says look at Islam with a modern pair of glasses, because Islam did not come for 1400 years ago time period. Islam came all the way up to the eternity, right? So Islam is moving with time, but we are not moving with time. We are moving in many instances backwards.
Some of us.
When it comes to such issues, we are moving backwards.
Indeed.
So we should be moving forward. Islam is made on fitrat. Islam is a nation, is a religion based on nature, on human nature. If we look at that, Father, in this country, our Muslim sisters and daughters and mothers who live in this country, they too have their obligation, and the fathers and the parents, mother and father both, have got to bring up their children, number one, according to the Islamic law, and number two, as far as possible, and it is possible, to refrain from breaking the law of the land, in fact, honoring the law of the land and following the law of the land. For example, in our country, in India and Pakistan, they do matam, or they beat their chest with hands, and some of them use chains and knives which makes their back bleed. And I have seen with my own eyes when I have gone for ziyarat to Iraq and other places, they even use swords on their heads. But when we are living in this country, if the government says anybody under the age of whatever can't use it, then it is the duty of the ulama over here, the religious leaders, the community leaders, to respect the law of the land and say, okay, we will not allow our children to it. In a similar way, the issue that you have raised and the campaign you have raised, that we have got to inform the community that, look, what we did. I'm not here to criticize you what you did 50, 100, 2,000 years ago. I'm here to tell you what you should do now and what you should refrain from doing.
Indeed. As well, the danger with this practice, the FGM, is it's done to children, not with their own consent. People who believe that mourning is part of their faith, they do it with consent.
Yeah.
It's a completely different order of magnitude. Here, it's forced upon girls without their own consent, without an understanding what it means, without understanding of the full total impact. People who mourn, they do it, it's their own choice.
Yeah,
that's one thing. Second, I don't know the details, I'm not an expert. However, I don't see a long-term effect of it, or at least there is nothing visible. If physical harm, there might be some pain involved, but I don't know exactly. This has very, very severe and everlasting impacts. It could result in death. It could, for sure, it will result in a woman not being able to fulfill herself and her partner.
Yeah.
The impact of this is beyond belief, really. And I really don't understand how did we end up as humans doing this to our girls, to our
Okay.
daughters and sisters.
This is the message, brothers and sisters watching this program, we have conveyed to you. Now, because of the very short time period, let me concentrate now with our brother who is from the Muslim world, who is from the Arab world, who is from the Palestinian world, who is looking at Islam not with a constricted vision and glasses, but with mashallah, with a wider view. If we look at Islam and the obligation of Muslims, and especially the Muslim leaders, right, of whatever color of the skin they may be coming from, whether they are Ethiopian or whether from Bosnia or Palestine, we are all either brothers and sisters by religion or at least by humanity, as our Imam put it. If that is so, we should present ourselves to other people of other faiths and religion that we think before we act, we evaluate things before we perform, we understand the religious obligations we have, but we also do not forget our social obligations.
Indeed.
Fadl, the social obligation, if we see, for example, in the subcontinent of India and Pakistan, and even those who have migrated here, the boys are saying, I must have a woman to marry who brings money into the family, must be money earner, right? Right? So now, to this modern age, when we have got a broader, the bigger the television the screen, the bigger the vehicle and the car is, the relationship for which Islam made man and woman together, something has crept in between them, that obligation, fadl, and that is the worldly goods and the greed of money.
This doesn't only apply to Muslims. The stresses of life, whether it's the car, the house, or the the big TV screen, as you put it, applies to everybody. And the consumer culture, I think it applies to young Muslims in this country, and it applies to young people in general. People who are fulfilled in their hearts and in their minds tend to recover or not suffer from the culture of greed, and they'll enjoy that fulfillment without being greedy. Religions, all of them, Islam taught its followers to work hard and be productive. And in Islam in particular, taught us to work. Abu Dhar al-Ghafari says, I'm going to translate here, give as much as you can and take as much as you need, or as little as you need. So the culture of greed and consumption is not really encouraged. However, the culture of hard work and production is very much encouraged.
Before we do that, let me tell you that the household of Prophet, peace be upon him, and those whom he preached, the Ahlul Bayt and those who followed him, he made sure that Prophet in his lifetime treated men and women justly as Allah designed it. If we look at even the performance of the Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the act of Hajra running between Safa and Marwa was so pleasing to him that he made it compulsory for those pilgrimages who go to perform Hajj. They do not only go so many times around the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Kaaba, but also perform the ritual Hajra Salamullah performed herself. It is to emphasize, look, O people, in my creation, I have not created inferior or superior. I have created different species, different sexes, but with certain obligations for those of them. It is said, a woman who wears child bears child, and the pain of this childbirth is as good for her as far as sawab is concerned. She has done more than just perform a jihad, and is equal to jihad, if not more, in many ways. If we give, then if we do that, then we should behave like that. We should let the world see the way our Aimma, our prophets, and from Adam's time onwards, how they treated. Women are not just pieces or objects to be treated in the way with our whim, with our notions. No, with the way, the rights that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them, and that is. With these few words, we will go for a short break, but don't go away. Be with us. We will be back again. Samain, welcome back to this program of Faith Forum. Today we are looking into the rights of women, the rights of women in Islam, which it is all our duty, men and women, to respect what Allah gave them and to encourage them to the best of their performance ability to reach their goals and ambitions, as long as it remains within the framework of Sharia, of Islam, of Allah's given rights and Allah's given duties and obligations. We have been seeing, and we have been talking about in different programs of especially the women, or within inverted comma, the Asiran Karbala, who marched as prisoners in a very, very sorrowful condition, by handcuffed and changed by the army of Yazid towards Kufa to Karbala. We celebrate this. Even 14 years have passed, but we have not forgotten that, and we respect that the great contribution those women folks made, the sacrifices they made, the tears they shed, all for the sake of one thing, for preserving what is right and fighting what is wrong. In other words, amal bil ma'ruf, nahi anil mulki, for which our Prophet and all the Aimma, and in particular in the field of Karbala, Imam Hussain al-Islam, performed and drank the jam, or the goblet of Shahada, to be with us for everlasting time. If we look at the rights and the performance and the deeds of women across the Muslim world, sometimes we have to hold our heads in shame. I'm talking just now with our Arab brother here, a born Palestinian, who has made, like myself, Britain his home, and quite happily so, has not forgotten that he too owns some obligation to the rights of the women across the Muslim world in particular, but women at large. Brother Fadl, can, in Islamic world we know, can a woman ride a horse?
I'm sure.
You can?
I'm sure it's
If
the
they
case.
can maneuver and control and ride a horse, and if they can learn, why can't they drive a car?
My wife drives a car.
Your wife drives a car. Wonderful.
I'd love to have my mother learn how to drive a car, but I think it's a bit late for her. You're talking about what's happening in Saudi Arabia. I think that has nothing to do with Islam. It has something to do with society there. The car is not very old on this earth. It's about 50, 70 years when it's first introduced to Saudi Arabia. And it's probably, they thought it's a privilege that shouldn't be extended to women. I don't understand, but what's happening there is a lot deeper. When a society, half of it is not working and not producing, not driving, not doing what it should, and the other half is busy trying to keep that half under wrap, think of the productivity of that society. What's happening there is really scary. If we extrapolate what's happening there to the rest of the world, the productivity of the world will go down. They're fortunate. They don't need to be to work very hard because they've got the oil, and probably that's why they can afford for half of them not to work and not to produce. You know, a few days ago I was reading that it's a lot more than just a privilege to drive a car. It's a need. A woman who wants to drive her kids to school, she have to rely on a driver. It's silly. I really don't understand it. However, I think eventually they'll come to their senses and drop that.
Inshallah. But you're talking about coming to senses. I've just read and heard and saw the video clip of the Mufti giving a fatwa that if the women would drive the car, they will lose their productivity. They will become sterile, astaghfirullah. Right? Where does this notion come that these muftis make a worldwide fatwa on such an issue and declare women to be so incompetent?
All what he needs is to look across the borders to Jordan or Egypt or to Dubai and see that women do drive cars and they're still productive. And he needs to come over here and see that how women run FTSE 100 companies. Women became prime ministers. Women are presidents. In Ireland, we had this notion of women can't do is beyond me. I don't understand it. His mother is a woman, his daughter is a woman, and he needs to wake up and smell the coffee, that Mufti.
When it comes to party, you talk about women and equal right, but are women not intelligent enough that they can't vote, or they, for a municipal, what you call, in many places in the Arab world, some of them do not have voting rights, and some of them can't stand for parliament. Are that so incompetent in the Muslim world, the women?
In the countries where women can't vote, actually men can't vote as well. So you're speaking about certain countries and women don't have the right to vote there. I think everybody don't have the right to vote in these countries. In countries where men vote, in the Arab countries, women vote, and I myself know women members of parliament in the Palestinian parliament, in the Jordanian parliament. I'm sure there are women in the Egyptian parliament as well. Women in the Middle East and the Arab countries are their rights are not as well respected as in the West, but only in some countries where women are really treated badly, very much badly. And of course, a lot needs to be done to help women and children in these countries.
Islam has a very important role and gave our Prophet the title of Khulq Azim, Ikhlaq, right? And Ikhlaq is something which doesn't grow on trees, doesn't drop from heaven, doesn't grow inside and underground from the soil, but it is something which is cultivated within the house. When we talk about Ikhlaq, it is again both men and women are equally involved when we go to, say, visit your house, our house, and in society in general. The role of women as far as Islam and Akhlaq is concerned, so important culturally, socially, and as a religious role. Are we preserving it? Are we growing it? Or are we bashing it or destroying it? What do you think?
I think a lot need to be done. I think there is a lot of work needs to take place. Ultimately, we need to reach a conclusion where we are all equal, men and women, all, and weak and strong, rich and poor. We all need to be equal in front of the law. And unless that status is reached, society is not just. And the aim behind any faith is to reach a just and equal society. Islam is no different. I think it's our duty, especially us here who live in the West, who enjoy equality and democracy. I want my fellow Arabs to enjoy equality and democracy. And I want to see them enjoying it. I want to see women, children, rights are preserved and respected. I want to see as well men, rights are preserved and respected. What's happening there, when you do not respect the rights of women or children, you're not respecting the rights of the society as a whole.
MashaAllah. If we look at the rights of women, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make them equally, mentally, in every way, equal. Our great lady of the lamp of Islam, Fatima Zahra Salamullah, when we talk about her rights, then in our belief and faith, we believe that she had the right over the garden given to her by her father called Fadak. And she marched to the king, the Khalifa, the ruler who sat on the throne there, bravely, with all confidence, to face the court there, to say, what has been given to me is rightfully mine. Nobody has a right to usurp it, to take it away from me. And she demonstrated, Fatima Zahra Salamullah, the princess of heaven, Shahzadi-e-Kaunain as we call her, right? And she demonstrated, I am here to have my right. And if I don't have my right, at least I can demonstrate to the world till time come that I stood up for my right. And I did not succumb to the social, cultural, political, or even the might of the ruler's pressure to give up my right. And today we remember the greatness of Fatima Zahra Salamullah, that she, as a brave woman of Islam, as a great warrior in Islam, right? She fought her battle equally with full determination as did her daughter Sania Zahra, Janabe Zainab Salamullah, after the Battle of Karbala. There are many other examples in history of Islam, Brother Fadak, where we have seen women in Islam have stood up with greater courage in many ways than men would have, and they have fought for their right because they believed that this is not given by them, that they can take it away. It is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and nobody has a right to take it away or usurp it with their might and power.
Indeed.
And if we take that example, then we have to tell and teach our women folk, look, you are no, in English term they say, you are no second fiddle.
Indeed. But as well, we as men, we need to take a stand.
Yes.
We have, of course, we need to encourage our sisters, daughters, mothers to take a stand. But we as men as well, we have to take a stand. We can't just abdicate. It's a responsibility upon all of us. We are equal. And if women are oppressed in our society, If women are used, our society will be ill, will not be as productive, and will not be as successful. And it's ultimately we collectively lose. It's in our interest. So we need to take a stand. It's in my interest that my daughter is equal. It's in my interest that my wife is equal. It's in my interest that my mother is equal. It's not in my interest that they are lesser of a human being at all.
Very well said, MashaAllah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah may give him jaza and sawab and his rahmat and his shafqat on him for saying that, look, we can't just tell women, you go for your right. No, it is our duty as well, as husband, as father, as brother, as sons, as children, as men folks, to see that we too make our contribution towards their right. We too see to it that Muslim women across the world are treated with honor and respect. The hijab that they wear on the head is an hijab of honor, hijab of dignity. In many ways, if we degrade them, if we humiliate them, if we bully them, then actually, as our brother Fadl says, we are harming our own self.
Indeed.
And our own future. How do you see the future of the place of Muslim in this country, women in this country who are growing up in this culture and society? How can they maintain a balance between Islam and the respect of Islam, but also perform their life in such a way that prosperity, honor and dignity is all maintained?
I'm very hopeful. I don't see a conflict. I know a lot of sisters who are phenomenally successful, and I look up to them, respect them. This country, education is an equalizer. Everybody have the right to education, and thank God our children are loving it. And with education, with knowledge, it gives everybody almost equal opportunity. Some historic and cultural issues which discriminate against women, you and I have a duty to stand against it. And my God, we are doing that. Inshallah. I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful.
MashaAllah. As I said, our brother Fadl here, who is the chairman of the British Arab Federation, is carrying on with all heart and mind his campaign. I would like you to show the poster of his campaign for the rights of Muslim women here, and I would like you to listen to him. And
the 30th of this month, it's a Saturday, it's an afternoon. We are meeting in Birmingham to discuss the issue of FGM. Please, if you have the time, come over and join us in trying to find a way forward. This is happening here in Birmingham. We need to put an end to it. So please lend us your support. If you can't come, there are many other ways where you can lend us your support. Go on the net, write, phone your member of parliament, phone your councillor, inform them that you are against it. Or at least pray in your heart that one day it will end up. But that's the least you could do.
And a message to the fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters, how to mutually respect the life and rights of women which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave, which we did not give, came from heaven.
Yes, we can't take away what's not ours. This is,
MashaAllah.
We have to respect what God gave, and we can't take it away. If we do, we will be zalim. That's the end of it. We can't take away from anybody what God gave them. And we need to work very hard, educate all our fellow men and women to try to behave and believe that we are equal. And if education doesn't work, we need to resort to authority to enforce the rule of law. And that's why in our campaign, we are asking for three things. We're asking first for education, and then we're asking for the law to be enforced and the law to be extended to take care of all children in this society.
MashaAllah. With those words, I too would like request you, all of you, to give Fadl here, our brother, and an honorable Palestinian, an Arab, above all, a Muslim, and above all that, a good human being who needs a helping hand to make this campaign successful. Remember, as our brother here said, if we don't stand up for others' rights, then in a way we are siding with the zalim, rather having sympathy and helping hand for the Mazloom. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed many a group of people when they trampled the rights that Allah gave his subjects, his people, his makhluk. And let us hope we learn from the lives of whether it's Maryam, Janab Maryam, Sarah or Hajra, or Khadija or Fatima or Zainab Salam alayha, that the way the Prophet, the way our great Prophet, peace be upon him, our great Aima, respected the women of their household. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the opportunity to listen, to read, to understand and watch, and make sure we propagate Islam the way our great Prophet brought it to us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.